My name is Tiffany Spraggins-Payne, and I'm your host of Zigzag, which highlights women entrepreneurs and industry leaders of the science, technology, transportation, engineering, and mathematic industries. We talk about these women's business models and how they differ from their competitors. Today, my guest is Iola Harper, Deputy Director for the Commerce Department at the City of Philadelphia. Welcome, Iola.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
So glad to have you. Iola, tell us a little bit about hustle. What's your definition of a hustle?
You know, it's funny. When I was growing up, hustle had a negative connotation. And so my dad would always talk about somebody tried to hustle him or somebody was trying to hustle someone else. And, you know, what he meant is kind of something covert, something negative, something that meant get over. And, you know, for us today, hustle is, you know, kind of a form of grit to me. It's somebody that is flexible and fluid enough to get it done by any means necessary, and hopefully in a positive way. And so, you know, somebody that kind of allows minor roadblocks to get in their way. You know, I say they don't have the hustle that they need to make it.
Right.
But there are certain people that can shake and shimmy, excuse me, and figure out how to get whatever it is that they're trying to get or do whatever it is that they're trying to do. And that requires a certain fluidity that not everybody has. So not everybody has hustle. But I certainly think it's a required characteristic if you want to get ahead, particularly in this city.
Give us some examples of some women that you admire who embodied this word, the hustle, on the positive.
On the positive side, you know what? I could. The names of women that kind of pop into my head when you think of people or women that might have started with nothing and ended with, you know, what it is that they wanted. You think about, you know, at the highest levels, you think about the Oprahs and the Michelle Obamas. But you know what? I also think about the Shelley Camerons, who Shelley Cameron is the CEO of the Philadelphia International Airport, who tells her story about, you know, how she was actually in the armed forces and actually went to war. And this woman was on the ground doing things that none of us would ever imagine doing. And so when I think about hustle and I think about grit, I think about my mother who, you know, with 2 kids, went to college and worked 2 full-time jobs and managed to give us dance classes and art classes and, you know, the life that many children might have dreamed of having. So I think about, you know, so many women when I think about hustle and grit. And I think, you know, we all, as we start to look at these women's lives and experience these women's lives, glean a little bit from all these different folks. And it kind of, we weave our own form of hustle that way.
That's awesome. Would you say that you bring your authentic self to work every day?
I do now. And so I am fortunate that the things that are important to me personally, I have been blessed to have a job that allows me to really work in the space that's most important to me, which is empowering people of color. And so I am able to, at this point in my life, actually live things that are deep in my heart and deep in my soul. I grew up right down the street from this building at 50th and Market and watched this neighborhood deteriorate. And this is the neighborhood that raised me. These are the people that raised me. And a neighborhood that my friends and I were free to wander and ride our bikes. And now, you know, most parents are like, okay, no, you can't go outside.
Right.
And so it's important to me that communities, neighborhood communities, urban communities, particularly communities of color, and the residents of those communities have access to the economic resources, the financial resources, the amenities, and all of the things that they need to have quality of life. And so, my work here at the Enterprise Center when I was here afforded me the ability to do things like that. And my appointment to the Office of Economic Opportunity by the current mayor certainly positions me to really do what I can for the people of this city and for the people that I care so much about.
That's really amazing, Iola, because when I think about even my upbringing, grew up on 52nd Street myself.
We never ran into each other.
Never.
What's up with that?
I know. But here we are today. We started from the bottom.
But we're here. But we're here.
But we're here. And, I just love how you talked about, the women that you admire and the hustle that they have and, where you are in your current position and the authenticity that you own in any space that you're in, whether it's through the Commerce Department with the City of Philadelphia, the work that you've done with the Enterprise Center. You've also done some work as an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about that journey and how hustle has been that common thread throughout.
Absolutely. And so at one point in my life, I'm going to say fortunate. I was fortunate. It was kind of the perfect storm that came together that allowed me for 5 years to operate a consulting firm. And in that time period, I worked with municipalities that wanted to improve urban commercial corridors. I worked with organizations who wanted to help women and minority entrepreneurs grow and scale. I had opportunities to do community development or community organizing type of activities. And, I can only say that my career path has been a blessed one because, again, it's been one that has allowed me to kind of work in the place that I feel the grooviest, which is in urban communities. I mean, so often young people will leave the community, they'll go to college, and they'll never come back. And it is critical that some of us come back. Some of us have to come back and provide the social capital and the intellectual capital that's needed to turn our communities around. And so I found a spot. I love this spot. I don't know what God has in store for me, but as far as I can tell, this is where I'm going to be. The job that I have now is an appointed job, and at some point I won't have this job anymore, but I feel comfortable that I somehow am going to be in this space.
And so, Iola, tell us about how you execute on days when you just don't feel like it. Like when you just don't have that extra push. Despite your passion for supporting women and minority and disabled-owned businesses and your own grit and hustle, how do you press forward?
So at the end of the day, as the kids say, I'm going to keep it 100. Still got that mortgage to pay.
That's right.
Still got that car payment. Still have groceries to buy. I have 14 nephews, all under, my son is 22 years old. He's the oldest. And then going down from there, 14 young black men who are parts of my heart, who live in the communities of Philadelphia, who go to schools in Philadelphia. So a lot of times I'm doing it for them because when we look at what's going on in the news and when when I call them all my children, when my children experience the very things that we see in the news, it hurts my heart. And so oftentimes when I am fighting for a business to get an opportunity, or I'm fighting for a woman to get access to a contract, I am doing it for all of us, and all of our babies and our babies' babies.
That's right.
And so at least I have a chance to do this. I'm going to do it while I'm here. But on days when it's really, really hard, those are the things that I think about. I could be anywhere else, but for some reason, God has chosen to put me right here. And so I've got to make the best of it while I'm here. And so I drag my hind parts into work. And the funny thing is, a lot of times those days where you really don't want to go and you're really exhausted or you're really frustrated, oftentimes turn out to be the best days ever, because they're little things. I have people that send me thank you cards. I have people that will call and say thank you so much. I walked into a store the other day and a woman came up to me and said, "I know you don't even remember me, but you helped me get a loan so that I could open this business." And when she started talking and I looked at her face, I absolutely remembered her. And that was a day. Ironically, I was having a frustrating day. I got up. I said, I got to take a walk because I had a couple situations. I had to clear my mind and figure out what the next step. And I walked into this woman's store and she remembered my name and came up, and I'm thinking, who is this person? And she took me down a path to show me exactly what I did to help her and how it got her to where she was. And so that ended up being one of the best days ever. Wow. And, we don't have all days like that. But, sometimes when you're having a bad day, I think it helps, wherever you are, to look at your blessings. First of all, you woke up, opened your two eyes.
That's right.
You probably are sitting on a bed, put your feet on the floor. There's heat in the room. And so we all have something to be grateful for, and we all have something to be thankful for. And I think that is the root of keeping it moving on those days where you really don't want to keep it moving.
I think it's so great that you bring that up. You said that this woman took you through the journey of how you helped her.
That I didn't even remember, honestly.
And I think it's so interesting because when we think about Warren Buffett, who writes about complex insurance industry, and he often averages about 13 words per sentence. And what I do know of you and know about you is that you are able to take very complex subjects, projects, conversations that you may have with individuals and simplify them ever so gently, so that people can get it. Like, get what they need to do, get what they need from you to move forward and apply, good business practices to their own business. Talk to us about how you're able to bring that competitive edge to your current work.
Sure. So I've had the great fortune to be able to sit on both sides of the desk, right? And oftentimes I describe it as translation services, even though we're all speaking English, right? Oftentimes, processes, business concepts, even directions on how to do something are offered in a quote-unquote language that our businesses just can't decipher. What does that mean exactly? And it has nothing to do with intelligence, because businesses owned by people of color, businesses owned by women, they are run by some of the smartest, savviest, grittiest folks that I've ever met. And so oftentimes it is translating complex languages into terminology that our community is accustomed to hearing and used to understanding. And when you're able to do that, when you're able to deconstruct the process using language that the audience you're talking to understands clearly, they then begin to see themselves as being able to accomplish something. And once someone sees themselves as being able to accomplish something, you've lit the spark, so to speak, and you send them on their way. It is not complicated to write a business plan. It is not complicated to begin to understand what it takes. And what I've found is that many businesses, particularly businesses owned by under-resourced people of color, they have the technical knowledge, they have what it takes, but they're so confused by the process.
Yes.
Sometimes it's on purpose and sometimes it's not on purpose. But I look at myself as untangling and deconstructing and translating in a way that somebody says, you know what, that's what that meant? Oh, yeah, I can do that. And that's what we want to do. And that's when we start to do that more and we start to talk about business using plain language and we start to talk about financial statements and using plain English, we will have more people that begin to say, I can do this. I've been doing this. I've been managing a household with children and a mortgage on this particular salary. I know I can do this.
Right.
I am a master accountant. And so it's helping people make those associations. And I think for me, when I see the light that they've got it in their eye, that is what keeps me motivated a lot of times.
That is so inspiring. Talking about plain English, a complex concept that I want to talk about really quickly that I know that you can translate for us. Brand models,
Okay.
as we understand it, brand models, they make up the DNA of a business, right? And so could you talk to us a little bit about some brand models that you admire, you employ yourself on a continuum?
Right. I think the success of any brand is consistency. It's always interesting to me, and I think many people have experienced how a young child, before they can read, they know when they've passed a McDonald's. And they know when they've passed a Toys R Us. They can't read, but it's the consistency that drives home, even in a 2-year-old's mind, that when they see that that yellow M or that yellow shape, they don't even know it's an M, that means that there are really good chicken nuggets that they can consume.
Yes.
And so how does that translate to a larger business? It translates into being consistently who you say you are, being consistently a reflection of the values that you put out. And so you will find some of the stronger brands in the market do that consistently. And you think about the largest companies, the Apples of the world or the Amazons of the world. They're like the gigantic companies. They consistently their external appearance and their external aesthetic is consistent with who they say they are, who they say they want to be.
Yes.
And so when you are consistent, you build trust. And when you build trust, you're able to get your customers to part more easily with their dollars. So when you go to McDonald's and if the French fries tasted different every time you went, and if the customer experience was different from place to place to place, you would not have the level of trust. And so a lot of smaller businesses have a hard time putting their hands around that or grasping that and say that they don't understand, even kind of at the lowest level, that their business card should match their website, should match their brochure, should match the uniforms that their customers wear. They don't understand that a bad day in customer service could lose 10 customers. And so it is a matter of sitting down, understanding this, planning your brand model, and making sure that your brand model really aligns in part with who you are as a company, but it also aligns with the expectations of the marketplace. And when you bring those two together, when you have philosophical alignment and you layer that with marketplace alignment, businesses that do that are successful. And so it's easy for me to sit here and talk about it. It's very difficult for someone at their kitchen table that's trying to get their shea butter business off the ground. It's hard to do it, but it's not impossible.
I want you to talk a little bit about how you drive growth.
Mm-hmm.
Not only with the Commerce Department, but just, you mentioned, these 14 young men
Mm-hmm.
who are in your life. Like, how do you impart the confidence, the wisdom, how do you kind of get behind these young people and say, hey, you can do this.
Yep.
You can grow. Where you are today is not where you will be or have to be tomorrow.
Right. So a couple of things. So whether it's driving growth as an individual or driving growth as a business, some of the tenets and requirements of growth are the same. One of the things that's most important in this society and this economy is acquiring new knowledge, right? So whether it's one of my nephews who has aspirations to do something, it's important that they understand how important education is and how important what you know. Of course, we heard the saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Right.
But it is what you know and who you know. So I often dispute that. It is what you know and who you know. From a business's perspective, a lot of businesses, get really complacent. They experience a certain level of success, and then they say to themselves, I don't need to go to the conference. I don't need to subscribe to this magazine anymore. I don't need to even read the newspaper. I'm too busy. And what happens is their businesses become stagnant because they're not aware of new innovation. They're not aware of new things that are happening in their industry. They're not aware of software that's making their industry more efficient and more productive and more profitable. And so, you have businesses, and I'll use this metaphor, still using a fax machine when they simply just need to send an email.
Right.
And so unfortunately, I find this with businesses that are under-resourced, and they could be under-resourced financially. They could be under-resourced from a human capital perspective, meaning it's just me or it's just the two of us and we don't have a lot of time. But acquisition of new knowledge and acquisition of intellectual capital. Intellectual capital trumps financial capital. When you know what's going on in the industry, when you know what's going on in your business, when you understand the finances of your business and how that aligns with the finances of the industry, you will begin to grow and scale. As an individual, when you understand what it is that you want to do, and you understand what it is what it's going to take to get you there, and you begin to pursue that path, you need to start to say, okay, if I want to be a pilot, here are the things that I need to know and understand. Here are the courses I need to take. Here are the people that I need to know. And so growth in large part has to do with intellectual capital and not compromising intellectual capital for the pursuit of financial capital.
That's powerful. I mean, I just had to take a pause and say, because that's so good.
That seltzer water you gave me just kicked in. The bubbles are going to my brain.
We got to get you more of that
water.
Right.
Good.
So tell me a little bit about what success means to you.
Success to me means that I'm able to ultimately live a life that makes me happy. And so I think that's what success means for most people, but they don't always think about it that way. They think about the pursuit of success and not what it means when they achieve success. What are they achieving success for?
Yes.
So for me, success means a happy family. It means a warm and comfortable home. It means an ability to be philanthropic. It means an ability to love up on my people, love up on my family. And so it means an ability to travel. It means an ability to pay my bills without sitting and holding my head while I'm writing the check. And so it means all of those things. And so, but I think what trumps everything is peace and happiness. And so would I rather have a job that pays $1 million but not have peace in my heart and happiness? Absolutely not. And so for most people, it's starting, I think Franklin Covey talked about starting with the end in mind.
Yes.
So what is it that I ultimately want? And what people ultimately want is different, and it's not up for anyone to judge. So if it's a big mansion and 10 cars in the garage and, a beachfront home, that is fantastic. And so you have to then look at what is it going to take for me to reach my definition of success. And so for me, it is just an ability to help my people,
Yes.
to love my people, to love my family, to have a warm and comfortable place to call home, and to have the ability to travel and pay my bills without great difficulty. And so I feel like that's simple, and I'm moving towards that. And so just waking up and feeling good about waking up. And saying, you know what, I'm contributing. And I think, a lot of people want to contribute to this world.
Yes.
And we've been gifted as people with multiple talents and multiple skills. And I think it's honing in on what's the skill and talent that I can use, that's been given to me or gifted to me, that I can use to really make changes and transformations in a good way. And I found that people that have discovered that are tremendously happy and peaceful. But it's not an easy thing to come upon for some people. And it's something that you learn as you get older. So that's my definition.
I love that definition. And, on the heels of that definition and question, tell us, what are your aspirational pursuits for the Commerce Department and the Office of Economic Opportunity? Like, if you had your druthers, what impact would you love to see come out of that work that you're doing?
So the work that I do is very cyclical in that one challenge feeds another. So let's look at the city of Philadelphia. And you know what? Let's not even look at the city of Philadelphia. Let's look at West Philadelphia Schuylkill Yards.
Yes.
Millions of dollars in opportunity for companies. My office gets calls. We need firms owned by people of color who can compete and participate. And that list is a short list. That list is a short list for many reasons. Oftentimes, it has nothing to do with the businesses themselves, right? So if I were to leave a legacy, I would want to leave a legacy where we've increased availability of firms who are able to compete. And so availability fuels utilization. So those are those big words that nobody knows what you're talking about. And what that means is when there's more businesses available, they are able to then participate in the economy in a significant way.
Yes.
And when those businesses participate in the economy in a significant way, they are going to hire people from the neighborhood who are going to earn wages that they're going to be able to spend in the neighborhood. And here's that circle. And then the neighborhoods are going to get better. And so increasing availability or increasing the number of firms who have the ability to be bonded, who have the ability to secure the capital that they need, that have the ability to compete on multiple million-dollar projects at one time, that have the ability to grow and scale and participate with the largest majority firms out there. That's a dream and aspiration that I have. And I'm going to do what I can in my time in this position to try to get as many companies moving in that direction as possible.
That is dynamic. My name is Tiffany Spraggins-Payne, and I'm your host of Zigzag. which focuses on highlighting women entrepreneurs and industry leaders in the science, technology, transportation, engineering, and mathematics industries. And we focus on these women entrepreneurs and industry leaders who have business models that differ from their competitors. Today, my guest was Iola Harper, Deputy Director of Commerce for the City of Philadelphia. She leads the Office of Economic Opportunity, where she develops and implements strategy to increase opportunities available to minority, women, and disabled-owned enterprises. For more information about the Commerce Department, Iola, where can we find?
Sure, you can find us online at www.phila.gov. And I need to say that the Commerce Department not only concentrates on the issues that I've talked about around participation, but that is a place where a business can learn to plan, launch, and manage a firm. And so if you go to phila.gov, you click on business, there are a ton of resources available for businesses who want to write a business plan or who need money or who need expertise. And so I encourage all the listeners to go online and check us out.
Thank you, Iola. And for additional information about Zigzag, you can find us on the Enterprise Center's website at www.theenterprisecenter.com. So thank you for tuning in. I'm signing off, Tiffany Spraggins-Payne.
T-Pain.
T-Pain.
Hello everybody, this is Ryan Martin, the production consultant for The Grit Live. If you enjoyed this episode of Zigzag, please share it with the world. You can also subscribe on the podcast player of your choice. And if you have any feedback, please email me at thegritlive@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, everyone.